magnetic storms that caused compass needles to swing as much as 20 degrees within an hour. Each of them carried a pair of powerful binoculars, however, binoculars that had been diamond-carved from the ivory-like black unicorn horn and set with lenses and prisms of diamond-cut quartz. The foremost bands of woods goats followed the advance of spring up the plateau, and they followed the woods goats. They could not go ahead of the goats. The goats were already pressing close behind the melting of the snow. No hills or ridges were seen as the weeks went by, and it seemed to Lake that they would walk forever across the endless rolling floor of the plain. Early summer came, and they walked across a land that was green and pleasantly cool at a time when the vegetation around the caves would be burned brown and lifeless. The woods goats grew less in number then, as some of them stopped for the rest of the summer in their chosen latitudes. They continued on, and at last they saw, far to the north, what seemed to be an almost infinitesimal bulge on the horizon. They reached it 2 days later, a land of rolling green hills, scarred here and there with ragged outcroppings of rock, and a land that climbed slowly and steadily higher as it went into the north. They camped that night in a little vale. The floor of it was white with the bones of woods goats that had tarried too long the fall before and got caught by an early blizzard. There was still flesh on the bones, and scavenger rodents scuttled among the carcasses, feasting. "We'll split up now," he told the others the next morning. He assigned each of them his position: Steve Schroeder to parallel his course 30 miles to his right, Gene Taylor to go 30 miles to his left, and Tony Chiara to go 30 miles to the left of Taylor. "We'll try to hold those distances," he said. "We can't look over the country in detail that way, but it will give us a good general survey of it. We don't have too much time left by now, and we'll make as many miles into the north as we can each day. The woods goats will tell us when it's time for us to turn back." They parted company with casual farewells, but for Steve Schroeder, who smiled sardonically at the bones of the woods goats in the vale and asked, "Who's supposed to tell the woods goats?" Tip, the black, white-nosed mocker on Lake's shoulder, kept twisting his neck to watch the departure of the others until he had crossed the next hill and the others were hidden from view. "All right, Tip," he said then. "You can unwind your neck now." "Unwind? All right," Tip said. Then, with a sudden burst of energy which was characteristic of the mockers, he began to jiggle up and down and chant in time with his movements. "All right. "Shut up," he commanded. "If you want to talk nonsense, I don't care, but don't say 'all right' any more." "All right," Tip agreed amiably, settling down. "Shut up if you want to talk nonsense. I don't care." "And don't slaughter the punctuation like that. You change the meaning entirely." "But don't say 'all right' any more," Tip went on, ignoring him. "You change the meaning entirely." Then, with another surge of animation, Tip began to fish in his jacket pocket with little hand-like paws. "Tip hungry, Tip hungry." Lake unbuttoned the pocket and gave Tip an herb leaf. "I notice there's no nonsensical chatter when you want to ask for something to eat." Tip took the herb leaf, but he spoke again before he began to eat, slowly, as though trying to seriously express a thought. "Tip hungry. No nonsensical." "Sometimes," he said, turning his head to look at Tip, "you mockers give me the peculiar feeling that you're right on the edge of becoming a new and intelligent race, and no fooling." Tip wiggled his whiskers and bit into the herb leaf. "No fooling," he agreed. He stopped for the night in a steep-walled hollow and built a small fire of dead moss and grass to ward off the chill that came with dark. He called the others, thinking first of Schroeder, so that Tip would transmit to Schroeder's mocker. "Steve?" "Here," Tip answered, in a detectable imitation of Schroeder's voice. "No luck." He thought of Gene Taylor and called, "Gene?" There was no answer, and he called Chiara. "Tony, could you see any of Gene's route today?" "Part of it," Chiara answered. "I saw a herd of unicorns over that way. Why, doesn't he answer?" "No." "Then," Chiara said, "they must have got him." "Did you find anything today, Tony?" he asked. "Nothing but pure andesite. Not even an iron stain." It was the same kind of barren formation that he, himself, had been walking over all day, but he had not expected success so soon. He tried once again to call Gene Taylor. "Gene! Gene! Are you there, Gene?" There was no answer, and he knew there would never be. End of Episode 8.